I had never put enough thought into where my food comes from, or how much effort and skill were required to grow it, until I found myself in the middle of it. But how I found myself there was as much a surprise as the education that I was about to receive. Having a front row seat in a farm combine as it harvested corn is something I would never have predicted. And how I got here, and how my eyes were opened, was all due to one moment of kindness that led to so much more. The story really starts in Ecuador, on a small farm in the Galapagos Islands.
This is the yucca fruit. It's growing here in the...
My friend Solon Intriago works as a scuba dive guide for his main income. It's difficult to get fresh fruits and vegetables in the Galapagos Islands, so Solon grows enough to provide for his family, and he sells the surplus.
We got this tree has maybe a year.
As my wife and I grew close with Solon's family, we visited their home on Santa Cruz Island, and we got a first-hand look at small-scale farming in a world where conditions can be harsh. I was fascinated as we toured Solon's farm and looked at fruits and vegetables that I had seen in grocery stores but hadn't ever seen growing. He showed me jackfruit, avocados, bananas.
Called the camote. This is a fruit. It's on the ground, like the yucca, like a yucca.
Last year, Solon and his family visited Canada, and we were driving past Squirrel Creek Farm, a family operation just a few minutes from our house near Millbrook, Ontario. Enormous combines were being used to harvest soybeans, and Solon's daughters were intrigued. This was a new sight to them, and we stopped so that they could take pictures. Steve Brackenridge saw the kids and he stopped his machine and got out. He told us that the girls were welcome to climb into the combine with his son Chris and have a ride as the crop was harvested.
We have our friends here from the Galapagos. I don't know your dad, your boss, your...
Dad.
Is your dad?
And boss.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
He actually offered that the children could have a ride in the combine.
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Awesome, thank you.
That's amazing.
Not the first or the last time.
Wow.
Well, these folks are from the Galapagos. They don't have soybeans. All they have is crops. So this is such a unique experience for them. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. So
Wow.
sit and go through. Okay.
Solon and Evelyn were thrilled to see their kids have such an experience, and the girls later told us that this was one of the highlights of their visit to Canada. When I posted pictures on social media, there was a flood of comments from the community explaining that this farm family was known for warmth and generosity like this. In an effort to thank the Brackenridges for their kindness, I flew my drone over their farm and took some pictures and video of the operation from above. The farm is beautiful, and the perspective was one that they hadn't seen before. Seeing that I had a new curiosity and an appreciation for the beauty of farming, Steve invited me to film as the family carried on their work over the next year. It would be a good way to see the big picture, and I was eager for the opportunity. I started filming from the air and from the ground. Steve and Chris patiently explained everything they did and why they did it. Chris has been in farming all his life, sitting on a toolbox in the combine ever since he could remember. He explained that the changes in weather brought new challenges for farmers. Temperature, drought, humidity changes. It all affects the growth of the crops. It changes the length of the growing season, and with these changes come challenges with new pests. Chris and Steve planted test plots so that they could measure the yield and calculate the grain weight and density. Farmers are constantly measuring and analyzing their crops to know if they are succeeding. Multiplying that data, they can compare their costs to their total earnings. The science behind their decisions is something that most of us never see. I learned that grain prices are set by world markets, and that farmers can't simply adjust their price to compensate for poor weather or a lower yield. If their machinery breaks down, or if the weather works against them, they're losing money. They need to rotate crops every year to avoid soil degradation and parasite resilience. And some crops can't be sold to certain countries due to different laws and regulations. Farmers here are competing with growers in other countries where costs are lower. Things like carbon taxes have a huge and unavoidable effect on them because diesel fuels the dryers in their silos. Supply disruptions cause delays in their ability to do their work on schedule. Farmers constantly need to stay on top of all of these things to know what crops will be best suited to their fields that year. Through all of this, people who don't understand farming expect farmers to simply absorb the costs and work harder. Farmers feed and fuel Ontario's economy. 50,000 farms, 11.7 million acres of farmland. It equals $50.6 billion annual contribution to the provincial economy, $26.2 billion in agri-food product exports, and 871,000 jobs. Steve explained the cost of farmland, farm machinery, and the daily cost of operation. It was staggering. Few North Americans would ever know the burden of such huge debt, or such demanding work. Farmers are at the mercy of so many things at once that it made my head spin. I was amazed to hear Steve speak about the effect that farming has on the environment. He gave me an education on the effect that plowing and tilling had on the release of carbon into the atmosphere, as well as the environmental benefit of planting crops that absorbed carbon and returned nitrogen to the soil. Even the thought that went into fertilizing the fields was surprising. Their concern for the environment runs deep. The Brackenridges are planting hundreds of trees along a creek and wetland, running through their property in a major restoration project that will create habitat and benefit the environment. They're committed to responsible farming that works with nature instead of against it. Only 1.5% of North America's population is involved in primary production of what we eat. Agriculture requires skill in animal science, plant biology, soil biology, chemistry, finance, and mechanics. Few resumes would be so extensive. By doing all that they do, the rest of us can do our work and simply go to the grocery store to get the food that we need so easily. And as if that wasn't enough, farmers here also produce food to be shipped to countries that can't produce enough of their own. As our population continues to grow and the demand for food increases, farmland is being bought up at an alarming rate to make way for development. We lose more than 300 acres of farmland in Ontario alone and thousands of farms in North America every single day. I followed the Brackenridges through their work for the 4 seasons. It never stops. The hours are long. There are no sick days. Few holidays. It's every bit as demanding as it is beautiful. Agriculture feeds our country. It's more complex than we know, and still so misunderstood.